Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jenny Carlson, Director of AARP Ohio. I'm excited to be your host for this important and timely conversation to help you and your loved ones prepare for any emergency. September is National Preparedness Month, and AARP Ohio is here to help you and your loved ones stay safe when disaster strikes. With disasters increasing frequency and severity, it's more important than ever to have a plan. Joining us today is Director of the Ohio Emergency Management Agency, Sima Merrick. She will lead a timely conversation as we explore how older adults and those who care for them can prepare when emergencies like severe weather, power and outages, and other natural disasters occur. If you're just joining us, I'm Jenny Carlson with AARP Ohio, and I want to welcome you to this important discussion that will get you ready for the unexpected and plan for emergencies. This is a live event, and it's hosted by AARP Ohio, and we're glad you're here. Let me welcome again Director of the Ohio Emergency Management Agency, Sima Merrick. With over 40 years in public safety, Sima brings deep experience and leadership in Ohio's emergency response efforts. She's
Thanks,
chaired
Jenny.
Yes, it's so good to see you. Sima has chaired countless boards and committees focused on keeping our communities safe, and she's a national voice in emergency management throughout her leadership roles with the National Emergency Management Association, NEMA. Originally from Lorain County and now based in Columbus, we're thrilled to have her with us. Welcome, Director. Just by way of background, AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan member organization, has been working to promote the health and well-being of Americans 50 plus for more than 60 years. This is an interactive event, and that means after some brief remarks from our guests, you'll be able to ask your questions by pressing *3 on your keypad at any point in time during this call or placed in your queue. If you're joining us from Facebook, you can post your questions in the comments. So let's dive in today. Welcome again. We've heard so many people around the state that creating a disaster preparedness plan can be overwhelming. What advice do you have, Director, to get started?
Well, Jen, first of all, thank you very much. And I just wanted to let everyone know that there isn't more of a topic that people should prepare for no matter how old we are, right? If we've been 40 years in this business, if we are new to it, if we're just starting to think about it, and I'll share something quickly. It was probably about 8, 9 years ago. My nieces were kind of talking about what I do. And one of them said, well, Sima, where is your preparedness kit? You talk about preparedness kits. Where is yours? And I said, well, here it is. And they're like, that's all you have in it? And I had Pop-Tarts in it. So my one niece picks it up and says, these Pop-Tarts are 4 years old, Aunt Sima. You really, really, really need to change out your food and your sustenance. And if you're gonna ask people to do this, and you're gonna talk about how important it is, then you need to have your kit. So let's build one together. So part of what I want to talk about today is preparedness for all of us, not only our family and ourselves, but to include our pets and to think about our communications plans as well.
That's really great, and I love the fact that you had Pop-Tarts in your grab to go bag, because I'm a Pop-Tart fan too. But once you've done those steps, how do you create a plan that's specific to your needs? If you're family caregiver like myself, what can you do for individuals that you're providing care for?
So first of all, when you're looking at your plan, you need to think about your risks and also your daily life. So if your daily life is working and being a caretaker, whether that's for someone who may be ill, maybe one of your grandchildren, you need to think about all of the things that have to go into a kit to be able to carry on if you had to leave your home quickly And if you were going to be out of your home or away from your normal place of being for a period of time. So, Ohio is full of hazards, right? We have hazards in Ohio of severe storms, which include heavy rain, lightning, damaging winds. Depending on where you live, um, flash and riverine flooding. Our winter storms are significant for us. Ice, heavy snow, below zero, cold spells, all of those create risks for us by power outages or the inability to safely get home. So we want to make sure that whether we are at home and have to leave, we have a preparedness kit, or if we're in our car, we should also have preparedness kits in our vehicle as well. Um, Jen, I can be more specific if you'd like me to dive into that.
Yeah, let's dive in. One thing I wanted to mention, we've seen the aftermath of disasters, and I know too well everything that you do on a daily basis at the Ohio EMA. Um, just so that you know, back in 2024, it was a challenging year. Our home was struck twice by a tornado, once by the tornado, and then there was another storms that came through and hit our tree line. And so we weren't 100% prepared. Do you have any advice for protecting property and your finances so that individuals can be ready when disaster strikes?
Yes, thanks, Jen. That is a great, 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 great way to talk about what we need to do. So, first of all, let's talk a little bit about tornado specific. So, there is times when there is ample warning or watches placed because the atmospheric conditions are right for that. The very first thing that I would recommend is that know how to get warnings, know how to get them on your mobile device, listen for them on TV, tune in if you're still an AM FM radio person. AM really does a great job in putting those warnings out. And frankly, we advocate to keep AM radio stations in our vehicles because that is where a lot of good information comes through, especially, and I'll be honest with you, I'm 60 and I'm still a radio person and I like the radio and I like broadcast TV. But there also are ways for us with our devices, right? We're on Facebook today, being able to do that through turning on our alerts and warning. And actually, knowing your county emergency management agency and reaching out to them. And later, we will put a website up to where you can go in and find out who your county EMA director is and how you get a hold of him or her to be able to sign up for their local ways of notification and warning. So that is the very first thing. The second thing is when it comes to your home and your property, and Jenny mentioned this, and she mentioned a tree line. Some of the things that you can do is to keep maintenance up and follow a regularly planned maintenance schedule at your home. So keeping low hanging branches away from your home, from the guide wires, if you still have above ground wires, they come from the power pole to your home. A lot of times, low hanging branches and that kind of debris will pull those away, and it'll take a couple days for power companies to come back out and reconnect you. The other thing is when you're looking at your gutters, you want to keep them clear of debris. Additionally, and I just had this done at home, you want to have your furnace and your fireplaces checked by professionals. All of those things kind of build into our personal preparedness. Real quick, I want to move over because of disasters and if we would have to leave our home, you want to make sure that you're keeping your important documents safe. Those important documents are very, very, very important, especially if we have to leave the home. Our insurance paperwork, our wills, our powers of attorney, and they can become damaged or even lost, especially in the impacts of tornadoes or flooding. You should consider storing important documents on a secure, password protected jump drive or possibly out in the cloud. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I'm talking about technology, and I still am getting notices like you need to join the cloud, right? You're running out of space on your phone. I'm kind of at that in between. I have I have a jump drive with my important information. I also have hard copies in a waterproof bag that I keep in a container ready to go in the closet by the front door if I would have to take off. And then lastly, I have a dog. I have a little dog. He's 5 pounds. He thinks he's 95 pounds. His name is Pete. He's older. He's a senior. He has medications. He has more clothes than I think I do. But, anyways, I have all of that put together and ready for him as well to take his medications, his food, and some bottled water if we would have to leave quickly. So I'll leave it at that, Jen.
Yeah, no. I love the fact that you really started to dig deeper into what a disaster supply kit means to people. You mentioned important documents, making sure that you have your important key information for your loved ones, for your pets. Other things that come to mind are flashlights and battery packs.
Yeah.
I'm imagining there's probably more critical items to consider, and maybe that's more personalized to individuals. But are there any other supplies that you would
Mhm.
recommend? I'm thinking checklists or local information to allow people to be prepared or think about disasters that might have them out of their home for more than 24 hours. Let's say 72 hours.
Yep. Yep. Great. Thank you, Jen. Actually, it's a great lead in. So, building a kit, like I said earlier, is very important. But there are a few steps ahead of putting together your preparedness kit. We always say being prepared is easy as one, two, three. So, first, you should know your risks and assess your needs. This too can be daunting and exhausting, but it is vitally important that you take this very first step in ensuring your kit is properly stocked. Second, you'll need to make that plan, and this can include creating a contact list of support network of family, friends, caregivers who can assist you during an emergency. Plan for power outages, evacuations, sheltering in place, and again, remember, to take care of your pets and service animals. And third, you want to start making your kit. And Jen, you hit on a really important an important part of what you said, and that is to make sure that we have enough for 72 hours. Now, there are people who say 96 hours. We kind of leave that up to us. I'm pretty sure I can get to most of my family or somewhere else. So 72 hours is what I plan for. I plan for water, a gallon of water per person in the home. So if you have two people, 2 gallons of water a day for those two people. If you have four, you want 4 gallons. And then, of course, add a little bit more there for your pets. And, you want this kind of stuff, a flashlight, water, snacks, canned food, some of your photos, a flashlight, a battery powered lantern so you can set it on a table to light up the room. You want to have extra batteries. They talk about the rechargeables, but we want to make sure we have extra batteries to be able to power those flashlights and that lantern. Other things that I consider a first aid kit, a small first aid kit, copies of my personal documents, and also a communications list with my utility providers because I constantly want to keep in contact with them if I'm out of power and I know what's happening in the neighborhood if I may be somewhere else. I keep a list as I've gotten older, but everyone should do this, of my medical contacts. I have phone numbers for my family and my neighbors. And then I talked about having a cell phone charger, but also a car charger. That's kind of important because wherever we're going, we had a power outage in Columbus here a couple years ago. It was kind of extended. My car still allows me to charge my the charger stays live even when my car is off. So I continue to charge my phone out in my car. But you have to have that right cord to do that. And then lastly, I would tell you, you want to consider adding your wills and trusts, copies of your homeowners and rental insurance, and any insurance policies you have. You may already have these securely stored in the cloud, so you can access them anywhere. But I encourage you to consider both ways, hard copies and electronically.
That is such valuable insight, and I hope all of our viewers are taking copious notes. But I'm going to ask my colleague Michelle to join us now so that we can turn to the phone lines, because we have lots of eager audience participants that have questions. And remember, if you'd like to ask a question, press 3 on your telephone keypad to be sure that you are talking with our AARP representative. We're going to take your questions and get you into the queue. So I'm going to ask Michelle to join us. And then also a friendly reminder, if you're joining Facebook, you can post your questions in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you. So Michelle, who's our first caller?
Sure. Our first caller our first question, is actually from Norwood, Ohio, and it's from Franklin, who lives in Norwood, Ohio, and he has a question about what to do if something happens and he can't reach any disaster response. So he lives in a rural area. His daughter lives out of state, and his son is getting ready to also move out of state, and he lives alone. His closest neighbor is pretty far away, and he wants to know what to do if something happens and he can't reach any disaster response.
Okay, so, that's a great question.
Sorry, Jen, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Director.
Thank you. Sorry about jumping on you there. So thank you for that question. Like we always say, I say this to my team, I say it to my family. We ourselves, you are the help until help arrives. And this is part of the reason we want everyone to be prepared. We want people to write down your plan to address your concerns. Think about what risks and scenarios could possibly happen in your location, and plan on what you need to do safe. Your preparedness kit should have the basic items, and your pantry should be stocked with enough food to last you for 72 hours. I just want to reemphasize Ohio. We have a very big and diverse geographic terrain, right? So Southwest Ohio is very different than Northeast Ohio. We have the Great Lakes we have Lake Erie on the north end. We're bordered on the south by the Ohio River. We can be in the 40s in Northern Ohio, and it can be in the 60s along the Ohio River in the spring, and sometimes vice versa in the fall. So you know best where and what your risks are, and try to adjust your plan and have things readily available to you until first responders or help can get to you. I hope this has helped.
Yes, thank you. One thing I want to just remind callers, press *3 on your telephone keypad to be entered into our queue, and we have volunteers and AARP staff waiting to take your calls and get you live. In the meantime, while we're waiting on some more callers to join and getting everybody screened, I did have a couple of other questions. If that's okay, I'll go ahead. Becky from Frazeysburg would like to know how to take care of their pet in an emergency. So her question is, she loves her cat and she's scared of losing her. She really would like to know, what are her options and what should she do to take care of her pets in an emergency?
So we have really, in the last 10 to 15 years in the emergency management and first responder world, really focused on folks and their pets. We have found and watched across disasters where people will not leave their home and they will not evacuate if they can't take their pets with them. And frankly, I kind of feel the same way, right? So since some of the major hurricanes and we've watched response mechanisms and recovery, we have focused on ensuring that there are pet friendly shelters for people. In the meantime, there are a couple things you can do. You can have that kit have all the things for your pets, cats, dogs. I had my animals blessed at church, and someone actually brought their chicken. They had a pet chicken, but it was kind of interesting how they had everything put together for them. It came in a little crate. They had all their little stuff. They had a little bowl that they put in that crate during the blessing. I say that because it's important to think about the needs of our pets. I mentioned Pete, my little 5-pound Maltese. He has medications and he needs them every day. In addition to the medications that I take with me, I make sure that he has a little little pill bottle that has his stuff in it. Secondly, I would have a crate available. If you don't have one, you can a lot of times talk to pet shelters. You can talk to humane societies. They have them. They also have sales where they're selling stuff where people have lost pets or no longer have them, and have that crate available to be able to take your pet with you. And then third, I would visit your county EMA's website and make a call to them and ask them what their processes are and their list of, if they have to stand up shelters, of where pet friendly shelters are, because we want people to get out so we don't have to come and try to send first responders in to put them at risk, or you stay at risk. If we can have people have their animals with them, we know that people are more willing to go and be sheltered and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you. So our next question, again, callers, we encourage you to press *3 to get in the call and have your question asked. Next, we are going to go to Donna from New Alexandria. And Donna has a question about CPAP. Go ahead, Donna, you're live with your call. Question.
Yes. My husband uses a CPAP machine mainly at night or when he'll lay down to take a nap. And we live somewhat in a rural area, and trees frequently come down across our state route, and it runs through a rural area. And without electric, the electric does go off frequently due to trees down or storms. And we have no generator, and he does need some type of battery backup that would keep the CPAP running so he can sleep. If not, he can't breathe. He has to get up. And I've gone on Amazon and looked up for battery backups for him for a CPAP machine, and they're upwards of $1,000. And Medicare, which does pay for the CPAP machine over time, does not offer any type of battery backup. And I didn't know if there's any resources out there or if anybody knows of where I could get a battery backup for a CPAP machine or not.
So I think that is a fantastic question. And I'm going to start, and then I don't know if AARP would have any additional they would like to add. So there are a couple things in each county, like county emergency management agencies, which would be one good resource to try to contact or text with, to see kind of what the time frame is for power restoration, or to have your road cleared for power companies to get in. Second, additionally, counties have local area agencies on aging. So they're the aging affiliate, like in each county, that helps address needs for the aging population. We have worked with them many times, ma'am, in response to disasters where they have come in and addressed some of these issues, or some of these concerns or lack of ability to connect. In addition, the County Emergency Management Agency will have a list also of where they're going to open shelters and shelters that are overnight shelters. And then the last one that I would offer is the Red Cross is a fantastic resource. I don't know, your situation and how mobile. But if there is an ability for the Red Cross to be able to get you or lead you to an overnight shelter that has connectivity, has power, and has that ability to recharge things. I'm not sure about assistance for funding for one of those battery backups for a CPAP, but I understand that that's a great concern. I hope a few of those things were helpful to you.
Great. So we have a few more callers in our queue. They're getting screened, but I do want to encourage the audience, if you have a question for Director Merrick or Jenny Carlson, our State Director, please go ahead and press *3 on your keypad at any time to be placed in the queue. And if you're joining us on Facebook, you can post your questions in the comments. I'm going to go to a couple of those questions that we've gotten from folks while we're waiting on our callers. This one is from Priscilla, who lives in Lima, Ohio. And Priscilla has a question about her mobility equipment and her insurance. So she needs a walker to get around, and she'd like to know what to do if it is damaged. And she's also on blood thinners, and her insurance will only let her fill 1 month at a time. So what could she do so she doesn't run out of medication?
Yeah, thank you for that. I would recommend, again, I think you said it was Priscilla who asked that question,
Yes.
to get in touch now. We call them blue sky days, right? So when there's no event happening, no response to disaster, and talk with a couple folks. If you refill your medications at the same pharmacy, they may have some ideas and some direction in where you can reach out to work with your insurance company to maybe have a standby where you could get medications in the event of an emergency. So I have gone to the same pharmacy for 30 years. I was down actually taking care of somebody, an aunt in South Carolina, and I had forgotten medication and I needed it it was blood pressure medication. I made a call to my pharmacy who was able to connect and talk to my primary care, and they did an initial 10-day dispersal of medication it to a CVS down in South Carolina so I could finish taking care of my aunt that I was caring for. Additionally, that area agency on aging may also have some ideas and may be helpful on how you could get a replacement walker. Or a lot of times they have people who donate that kind of stuff from folks who have moved or have relocated or have gone into assisted living that don't take that stuff with them. And they have a lot of that a lot of that equipment available that could maybe help out with your damaged equipment. One other thing I think I would mention, and I recently did this as well. I had a hip replacement. You're learning more about me than you probably wanted to know, but I wanted to get one of those things. I think they're called a rollator. So you could go to the store, you can push it. If you tire, you can sit down and take a little break. I went to Goodwill prior to my surgery, and they had like 3 of them in there that people had donated, and they were at very much a fraction of the cost.
I think that's really great advice to our participants. And then I would also say that it is completely appropriate to go to your primary care physician to talk about what happens if you're traveling and you need your medication therapy management for over that, whatever that fill rate is. And so I am a caregiver. My 87-year-old mother lives with me, and oftentimes I have had that conversation with their caregiver, worked with the insurance provider to try to expand the duration, the amount, so that it's not just a 30-day fill rate, it could be a 60 or a 90-day fill rate. Sometimes insurance stands in the way, but I think the director has given really great options, working with the AAAs and working directly with your providers.
Great. So I am going to just read, or Sharon Frenzel is from Monroe in Butler County, and she had a comment she'd like to share. Sharon, go ahead, live.
Hi. We had a lady in the area a number of years ago who was on a heart-lung machine. So therefore, if the electricity went out, she was in big trouble. In their home, they had a generator, and I know generators don't last for extreme long periods of time. However, they notified the local electric provider, and I thought about this after I finished my conversation with the operator. They also notified the local fire department because they would start the generator immediately in home, but they also notified the fire department, and they bring out a larger generator to sustain her until the electric company would get the electric back on. With the electric company knowing that it was life and death for her to have electricity, they sent their crews out to that area where she lived to restore the electricity to that area as quickly as possible. So therefore, she was covered with her machine that she was in 24/7.
Thank you, Sharon. That's great. Appreciate that. And for everyone on the line, please remember to dial *3, press *3 on your telephone keypad if you'd like to ask your question live. We're with Seema Merrick, the Executive Director of the Ohio Emergency Management, and Jenny Carlson, the State Director for AARP Ohio, and we're answering your questions about disaster preparedness. So we're going to go ahead and take one more question from our online. What they'd like to know is, are there any local programs or places that are accessible with people with disabilities or medical needs?
I'm sorry, can you go ahead?
And I'm assuming the caller is asking about training, programmatic resources, maps, data, anything that we can offer with individuals with disabilities. Director, are you familiar with EMA training resources on the local level?
So what I would add to that is, so I keep talking about our county emergency management directors, and every county, all 88 counties in Ohio, have a director, and generally they have more than just themselves in that office. But their role is to work all functions of an emergency, right? So they have operations centers. During blue sky days, they are working on planning and training and working with first responders and bringing in that kind of training for folks. We work with all kinds of folks with access and functional needs. There are courses that are supported by Ohio Emergency Management, county emergency management agencies, and also FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, as it relates to to folks with these needs and disabilities. There is always a role for someone with any type of limitation, functional need, or disability to be able to be very helpful in disasters, not only in disaster response and recovery, but in that long-term recovery and helping people be prepared for the next event. So when we are going to go ahead and put up the slide with the ability to visit the Ohio Emergency Management website, and it will take you and tell you where to go on our website to be able to look for which county director you have. I strongly encourage everyone on the phone to, one, make sure you know who they are. Two, if you're out and about, stop in and say hi or send them an email, because these folks work really hard to make sure, even me, right? I live in the community and I want to make sure that my local EM director knows me and knows, well, they do know me, but knows my family and how important their role is in helping us be prepared and to recover from any type of disaster.
Excellent, excellent. Our next caller is Janice from North Olmsted. You're live, Janice. Go ahead with your question.
Yes, I'm wondering two things. Number one, if you have water stored, how long is it good for? And do you recommend buying it already bottled or just putting your own water in bottles? And also, if I have canned goods, I'm assuming I need to keep track of expiration dates. So how do you kind of deal with all of that? What do you recommend?
So this is, I'm smiling because I had water stored, right? Let me answer the first question. So I would recommend that you buy water because all of our water systems are a little different and they treat a little differently, right? So I know Columbus water, if you live on one end of town, it comes from groundwater. The other end of town comes from a reservoir. And the different additives in there may break down over time. So I would recommend that you get bottled water. You keep it in a cool space, dry, cool, and really pay attention to the expiration dates. We went through an exercise here at the Emergency Management Agency where we had purchased bottled water. It was nearing the expiration date. Some of it had expired, so we had gone to the food bank and said, hey, we have this pallet of water. We would like to donate that water. Food banks and places like that won't take bottled water that's expired. Now, when you talk to certain bottled water providers, they'll say they're required to put an expiration date on that, but the water does remain drinkable for a long period after that. But really, they ask us to pay attention to our expiration dates, especially on water and liquids. For canned goods, you'll get a different answer from different people that you ask. So I really try to pay attention to canned goods, but if it's 3 or 4 months after the date, I would encourage you to open it if you're going to use it, and if it's okay or it seems okay. If you have any type of concern about it, then I would go with the expiration date. It can be a lot to manage, but what I have done, if this may be helpful to the callers and folks online, is that when I change the batteries in my smoke detector, I also check the water bottles that I have saved in the basement, and things like, and you heard me talk about my Pop-Tarts were quite expired. They're not anymore because I check the stuff in my kit and the expiration dates when I change the batteries with the time change. So I've kind of just made that as my plan to check all of those things for emergency and disaster preparedness.
Great. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jenny. I think there are a few more things that we want to discuss. Go ahead, Jenny.
Thank you, Michelle. And if you just joined our call, I'm Jenny Carlson, State Director of AARP Ohio. Today's topic is helping you prepare for disasters with special guest Director of the Ohio Emergency Management Agency, Saima Merrick. And I know if you still have remaining questions, press *3 on your keyboard. We do have a little bit more time to take a few additional questions. And of course, if you're joining us on Facebook, you can post your questions in the comments. Director, I'm wondering if you could tell us how to stay educated and informed about natural disasters or other risks that could likely affect individuals residing in Ohio and also outside of Ohio.
Sure, absolutely. So first of all, the very first place that I'm going to ask you to visit is the Ohio EMA website. We have a preparedness page where we share information and preparedness articles all the time. I have a strong public affairs team. I have a strong regional coordinators team, and we are constantly using our webpage as well as our social media. And you can follow us on social media on Ohio EMA, Facebook, and X, which I still say Twitter, but it is X. I make sure that I follow that. I additionally follow my local news stations. I spend a lot of time, and so does my team. If you were in our building, we have the Weather Channel up on TVs throughout the building. And not only do they do weather, but they do segments on preparedness. They talk about what's coming. You know, we're in hurricane season. And you might say, yeah, you know, I'm in Ohio. Or you might say, yeah, it is hurricane season, and I winter in Florida or in the South, and they've been impacted by disasters and hurricanes in the past. But a lot of times being prepared, paying attention to what's coming by watching wherever you want to get your news. I say the Weather Channel, there's Fox Weather, our local stations. You know, I spend time in the Cleveland area. I have family there, and I have family in the Toledo area, and I live in the Columbus area. So I watch all of our network news, and they do a great job on our weather and what's coming forward, as well as what's happening across the country, saying, you know, in the wintertime, well, we have a nor'easter that's coming in, or we're watching this Alberta Clipper that's coming down, or we're very dry in the West, and we're dealing with drought, which is creating some of these issues with dust storms. And recently, we've been facing a lot in Ohio from the wildfires in Canada, which has sent a lot of smoke our way, which has created some breathing issues and those high alert days. That all comes to us from information through our weather channels and also our local news channels. Additionally, if you have a certain social media platform that you like to follow, but at Ohio EMA and the county emergency management agencies, they're always sharing preparedness information.
Well, I want to thank you for explaining all of those. And I also want to let our callers know that we have free AARP resources and even checklists available at our AARP website. Also, to help you get started on creating your own Ready Bag or Kit, we're running an AARP Ohio Ready Bag giveaway sweepstakes. And I believe there's a QR code at our screen. We're giving away 20 disaster prep bags, just like the one filled with essentials to help families stay ready for anything. And so folks can enter now or through October 30th, and winners will be drawn on Halloween. And you can visit AARP Ohio website to enter. If you're joining us via Facebook Live, you can scan the QR code on your screen. But back to today's conversation. Could you discuss some additional resources available to support older adults or caregivers? I know you shared on the screen different resources with the county EMA directors, but what about individuals that might be traveling out of state? We have lots of folks that are traveling right now during the holiday season. What would be your recommendation that they who should they turn towards?
So every state has a state emergency management agency. And some of them are emergency management and homeland security combined, but every state has one. And I would encourage you for a couple things as you're traveling to Google or use a web browser to find that state emergency management agency's website. And on there, as a matter of consistency, especially through our national association, we have all of the counties and local resources posted at different states' websites. So Arizona may look a little different than Ohio's, who might look a little different than North Dakota's, but the information is on that website. Additionally, as you're traveling, whether you're traveling by car or by air, I would make sure that you know the area in which you're traveling to, how to reach. 911 is always great, right? But how to reach local resources through the county or the city emergency management agency in which you're traveling or going. If you winter in the south, or heck, if you winter in the north because you're a skier, you might be able to get more information and quicker information by having those links already added to your mobile device or to your laptop or whatever you take with you. And then always know that each state, metropolitan areas as well as rural counties, have some type of local area agency on aging. It may be called an aging agency. It may be called the aging department. It could be something different in other states, but they also have those agencies available to help you and guide you in whatever you might need for where you're staying.
Thank you. I'd like to add that AARP has also a disaster preparedness page with a wide range of information to help you plan for emergencies. And you can visit us at aarp.org/OH disasters. So let's get back to the phones for one more call, Michelle. Who's our next caller? Well, I know we're waiting for Michelle to get back to us. And so I do see some of the questions coming in on Facebook Live. And I do have a question from Susie from Mount Vernon. And she's wondering, does the EMA provide public hazard risk maps or data like flood zones? And how can the public access? Director?
Thank you for that. And that is a fantastic question. So there are at FEMA.gov, so it's FEMA.gov, you can go on and there is a plethora of information, but in particular, there is information on flood mapping and mapping through the National Flood Insurance Program. And I say this with emphasis because I have a home up along Lake Erie, and it has been a topic of conversation if we are in or out of the floodplain, because the flood maps have been revised over the last 10 years. And I went on to FEMA, and it's very simple. If you go in, you can put in a location, you can go by map, and you can expand or contract and pick your street, or you can enter an address. And it will pull that up and it'll give all kinds of demographics around the property in which you're looking for. So that is one area in which you can get information. FEMA has a lot of things on hazard maps, hazard plotting. Additionally, the Department of Natural Resources here in Ohio, they have a Division of Water section and they have a floodplain management section. They have access to the mapping. They also have access to topographic maps. And then lastly, if we look at our weather resources, right? So if you go to the National Weather Service or NOAA, NOAA, and can browse around on their website, they generally, you can pull any hazard map. They do 10-day, 30-day, 90-day projections. They have things about wildfire, drought, flooding, flood maps, um, high winds, dust storms, and they're national. So you're able to look at the different weather services offices. I will make a plug that I'm kind of looking to become a weather spotter because I love to know what's happening and what's coming. And through the National Weather Service, and in particular, the National Weather Service in Wilmington, Ohio, they offer weather spotter trainings if you're interested in looking for a hobby in that. But second, it just helps us become more informed and understand the kinds of things that are being discussed or talked about when weather and meteorologists are talking about upcoming seasons. So those are some of the areas in which we can find hazard maps and some flood risk maps as well.
That is so important, and we'll be sure to get the word out about those weather spotters and encourage everyone to go and dig deep into not only the checklist, but then also all of the resources that our state director has reviewed today, all of the Ohio Emergency Management Agency services. And so I'd like to thank everyone for taking part in today's town hall discussion of AARP's priority to help you prepare for an emergency. And thank you to you, Director. It was so great to see you. Thank you for your time. This was a fantastic discussion. And as a reminder, AARP disaster preparedness and sweepstakes information can be found at https://www.aarp.org/ohio. I'm Jenny Carlson, AARP Ohio State Director. Thank you and have a great day.